Welcome to the big kick-off, League of Ireland Sports Bar. Another good night of football, Nathan. And when we look at it, Dundalk again struggling. I mean, defeat. It doesn't matter how they play at the moment. They need to start getting points on the board. And again, beaten 1-0 by Bows.
Yeah, and in fairness, like I said, off camera, I missed most of the second half, which was brilliant. But it sounds like I didn't miss too much. The Wi-Fi cut out. That's what the country Wi-Fi will do for you. But yeah, look, for what I did see, they were very unimpressive again. A lot of rushing, a lot of crosses into the box that were just aimed at absolutely nobody. We've seen that against Finn Harps. I think I touched on that. Like some Michael Duffy was getting the ball and a lot of wayward crosses in that just was absolutely nobody. The midfield looked very, very light and like look, Dundalk they probably started the better out of the two teams in the opening 5 minutes. You had a couple of hard chances and hit the crossbar, but as soon as Bohemians got the goal, that was it. I thought they looked really comfortable for whatever the remainder of the game that I seen. Georgie Kelly was absolutely brilliant tonight. I thought he was a real star man, and he's what a big central striker should do. You know, his whole of play was absolutely brilliant, winning the likes of Ross Tierney into the game. Andy Lyons did unfortunately go off early. But when he was on the pitch, I thought Andy Lyons was absolutely brilliant. I actually worried about Lyons a little bit coming up against Michael Duffy, which you would do. You'd worry about a lot of right backs coming up against Michael Duffy, but Jesus, he was non-existent. Again, from what I seen, Michael Duffy done nothing, and Andy Lyons was actually getting the better of him and bombing past him on most occasions.
Yeah, I have to say now with Dundalk, when I look at Dundalk in any game so far this season, I know in the second half against Shamrock Rovers, they got the ball, and that was probably the best they played, where they were moving the ball very quickly. But tonight, again, even though they got pushed back, Bohemians, they didn't seem to be a threat. Again, Michael Duffy, maybe I'm getting on Michael Duffy's back, but I'm not seeing what I think I should be seeing. I'm not seeing him getting beyond players. Again, in the second half against Shamrock Rovers, that was a little different, but that's only a patch on what their season is so far. And everything that is, no one knows who's playing, no one knows who's starting. The goalkeeper gets changed today. They don't know who the manager is. There's real sort of problems. It doesn't look like there's any cohesiveness there at all with them.
Yeah, I hear people calling it a transitional time, and I wouldn't even call it a transitional time. I just think it's just more confusion, like you said, and anything else. Look, probably the fairness, I think the goalkeeping change is probably for the better. I've said it the past couple of weeks, he was unbelievably flappy at everything. Looks, yeah, man, what's Al-Bibi, is it? His name?
Al-Bibi, yeah.
Yeah, as people will know, once there's a foreign name involved, I'll absolutely struggle. But it could be as simple as that. But yeah, look, he looks like a decent shot stopper, but any crosses are into the box, absolutely flaps at it. Not much confidence in him, which, you know, you never want to be saying about any goalkeeper. So yeah, having Peter Cherry in, a more experienced head within the league, and just in general too, was probably a change for the better. But yeah, look, it is a very confusing time for Dundalk, and even next week, and even going off that game, I couldn't even begin to tell you, to even attempt to pick out what the starting 11 for the next game is going to be.
One player that stood out was Tierney for Bohemians. I thought his work rate, the commentators were talking about him in the second half, but I just noticed how hard he was working in the first half. There's still a lot of things he has to develop in his game. He gave the ball away at times when are crucial passes that he could have probably made goals from, and he didn't complete them and stuff like that. But his work rate was absolutely brilliant. And that's something that every team needs. And that's what Dundalk didn't have. Junior came on in the second half and he looked a bit fresh, but there's no one chasing the ball down, grinding. Shields is a good player. Shields marshals the back four but he doesn't go. He's not going on impacting on their. Obviously, he doesn't, because he's going to sit. But the rest of them need to go and press the back four and the midfield and really hurry them and put the mistakes into them. But it's not. Everything seems to be just real casual now. And when they get the ball back, we'll pass it around and we'll make sure that we cause them problems then. But they're not doing that. It seems to be they're stuck in second gear and they can't get out of it.
Yeah, and that's actually going about Shields, and even with Chris Shields, like, you know, he went down injured, and that would have been an absolutely ungodly loss to them with everything that's going on this season. Such a regular head in that team, and like absolutely, like, he knows the club like the back of his hand by now. But yeah, and I think, you know, he wasn't playing tonight, but even the likes of Greg Slogger, you couldn't even look at him as being a more creative midfielder. The two of them sit very deep, you know. I think they even mentioned on commentary they haven't had a midfield player like that since the likes of Benson was gone, even though Donald was a little bit more creative than Shields. So, while that's not the only area they're missing, there is other parts of the field that they're really lacking so far this season. But that is a big one. Another big one for me, which is strange to say, but they're so light up front, which again, it's weird, like with the likes of Pat Hoban and the Norwegian lads, that looks absolutely massive, doesn't he? I've seen the standard signs, James Finity, and Jesus Christ, he made him look, and James isn't a small lad either, but this Norwegian guy is an absolute giant. But again, it was just very strange to see Dundalk side like that, so light up top and just lacking of any sort of killer finish in the area that they needed the most.
As you were saying, they're towering over Bohemians, and for me, there was never really any pressure. I think there was a header in the first half that hit the crossbar, but it wasn't even. It was a looping header, and so it never really caused. And I think they scored nearly off the back of that straight away. But they don't look threatening from corner kicks where they should do. That free kick they did, as you said, like they're towering over them 3 and 4 inches. And the delivery wasn't good enough. I'd be concerned for Dundalk this year. Well, you have to be now, because there's 4 defeats in a row. We talked to Harry Kenny the other week. He says they'll get into their groove and they won't miss out in the league. They'll be up there and thereabouts. Well, they're going to have to, snap over fairly quickly, and something's going to have to happen. I don't see I like that player Han. I think he's a good player. But again,
made from Cabra.
made from Cabra. But he's a good busy player. But I'm not seeing the energy in the team. And when you look at Shamrock Rovers, you can see a little bit. You can see the class oozing out. Where in the league, there's not huge class. You will see a lot of teams working hard. You look at we'll come to St. Pat's. You look at St. Pat's tonight. St. Pat's were decent tonight. They got on the ball, they passed the ball and moved around. I wouldn't say anyone stood out because they were class, but I think they were very, very good and efficient and did the job that they had to do. They were excellent at what they had to do, but no one really stood out. But when you look at Rovers, there's players who can change a game, who can do something different. Dundalk, I don't see that, and I'd be very surprised if Dundalk, if they finish mid-table, I think they'd be delighted this year, because there's other teams there who just have that little bit more about them. And the one thing that they're missing is that grit.
Yeah, and I think we have to get away from the whole argument of that's only early days, but you have to take it on face value at the moment. And like at the moment, there's really just a lot of stuff lacking. And like there's quality players in that squad, like Michael Duffy, Pat Hoban, like these aren't bad players. These haven't turned into bad players during the off-season. But it's the delivery into them, and even their own personal performances. Like the 2 lads I mentioned there, like they might as well not been on the pitch this evening. They talked about extremely quiet. But no, like we've seen games where Hoban would do nothing for 70 minutes and get some chances and bury it, but they didn't even look like coming because the creative spark isn't there to give them balls. And at the moment, it's like my own team, St. Pat's, are coming up against them next week, and for the first time in a long time, I wouldn't be going into that game fearing than that Dundalk side whatsoever. I'd actually be very confident that Pat's team could beat them. And that's genuine, not being biased. There's nothing there to fear at the moment. Like I said, look, they're probably going to make 1 or 2 more changes to the starting 11 again for next week's game. Han, going back to him, I agree with you. I think he was more of a busy player than anything else. The league is full of them sort of players. He's not going to tear anybody apart. He got past Tyreek Wilson. Well, actually, I thought Wilson had a decent game, actually. He got past Wilson once or twice at the early start of the game, but that was it, really. There was nothing. There's no player that you could really stand, like, pick and point out that they're going to get that Dundalk team by the scruff of the neck and drag them to some results and drag them to better form, because, it's just even the key players at the moment aren't stepping up, and when the key players don't step up, that's when we are in a good bit of trouble. Yeah.
What about Bowes? Bowes in the second half, I know you said you didn't get to see it because the Wi-Fi went down, but the second half they actually got the more dominant. They got on the ball, they passed the ball around, they actually passed Dundalk off the pitch at times. There's a lot of good young players there, and you can see that it's probably just going to take time for these to click in. And Bowes have been doing this really well over the last few years. It's probably catching up on them now, the amount of players that they lost from last year, and they may and may not have as good a season as they had in recent years, but they're still bringing through loads of good young players. You can see positives in it. I seen results, but this is the first time I've seen them play, apart from 20 minutes or something against the Longford, when they fell apart. But I definitely think they can I definitely think they can do something, and they definitely can build on it. The problem is they'd probably lose some of these players again next year, and they have to keep rebuilding again. So, Bose, what do you think? You've seen them in the first half. Anyone stand out, and what did you make of how they played?
Yeah, look, probably similar to everybody else. Georgie Kelly, Ross Tierney were the two players taught really well. Ali Coote as well. He probably won't get much praise because he's in that role, isn't he, where he's going to do more of the dogged work. But I thought he'd done really well from what I've seen. Liam Burt again, another player that's going to be creative influence for them this season. Similar to yourself, this is the first time that I've actually sat down and got a chance to watch Bowes play, and I didn't really know what to expect. It was a disappointing start to them this season, and I thought this could be a difficult game coming to Oriel Park, which is a notoriously tough place to come. But from what I've seen, they were head and shoulders better than Dundalk. And if I was a Bohemians fan, I'd be much more confident in myself if you're going to be coming up against the likes of Dundalk in the latter end of the season, probably chasing Europe or something like that. Yeah, I think they have definitely more creativity. And again, Georgie Kelly bagging another goal, and that's a big thing that I thought he could have struggled with this season, losing both Grant and Roy. So to have Georgie Kelly off the mark already with a couple of goals, it's absolutely key for them, because they're going to be really relying on a central striker like him, especially by looking at the formation they used today. They're going to have a heavy reliance on Kelly. So they're going to not only need him to hold up the ball and to bring the likes of Ross Tierney into the game, but they're also going to need him to chip in. So to see him doing that early on, I'd be absolutely delighted if I was a Bows fan.
Yeah. Okay, we go back to the game at just before 6 o'clock this evening. St. Pat's are at home to Derry City. I'm fairly sure your Wi-Fi didn't go for that one. I'd say you were delighted to watch that one. St. Pat's 2-0. Again, we talked about Declan Devine last year. We're talking about him now tonight. He's what is it, 3 in a row they've lost. Yeah. They're going to be rock bottom. They're going to be playing on Tuesday against Shamrock Rovers. They're going to have a hell of a performance to win that one. They could easily go now 4 from 4, rock bottom, and there's going to be an awful lot of pressure now, isn't there?
Yeah, big time. On Decky, that Gerard Boyne kept calling him, and every time he called him Decky, I don't know why, a little bit of a giggle out. And you know what? I watched them against Waterford, and I thought they were actually okay. I thought they were okay against Waterford. I thought they dominated the decent amount of possession, and they actually had a fair few chances that with some better finishing, they could have came out that game with something. And even here, like they talk about a red card changing the game. First of all, I thought the red card made a massive difference in this game, which we'll get onto. But yeah, in the opening 5-10 minutes, I thought they pressed St. Pat's really well, and I thought they actually put them under some decent amount of pressure. And it was just, yeah, like like I said, the red card did change it, but yeah, they looked all right. They really, really did. And unfortunately, as the game went on for them, the likes of Parkhouse was completely isolated on his own. But just, yeah, the performances, even away, and you can't blame certain elements like the card and stuff. But yeah, the performances again after that one, after the first 10-15 minutes, was just really, really poor. And the pressure's already going to be on with Declan, because they themselves and St. Pat's actually last season were probably one of the two sides that really underwhelmed. And we always talk about Derry City playing a certain style of play, and realistically, like that decent Derry City style of play actually just hasn't been there probably since Declan Devine took over for this spell that he's on as manager of the club. It's even thinking back to last season, it was just poor. It really, really was just a poor team to watch. And that was having the likes of Conor Clifford and McCormick in the central midfield pulling the strings, and now all of a sudden those players aren't there, and they're relying on some younger lads to pull out them shifts. And yeah, I think it could be a difficult season for them. Again, we can always keep saying it's only early days, but this is what we're going off, and I think there is a good few young lads in that team that maybe just aren't physically ready for that step up.
Yeah, I was watching the game at the start, and I was trying to suss out the two of them. I wanted to get a good feel for Derry City, just to see, I don't want to, spout on about how a team's not doing well without having watching them. Watching them this evening, again, it's a little bit like Dundalk. They're okay, but they're not doing enough. Yeah. I thought even when they had 11 men, I didn't think there was a lot of... they were blocking off Pats, but they weren't pressurising, if you know what I mean. Pats were finding it hard to get out, but there wasn't that nick the ball in dangerous areas and really cause problems. I don't see it with them. I think there is a decent side there, but then again, there's a few decent sides in the league, so you can't just say, listen, I'm a decent side, we're going to be okay. If the ones that show up are going to be okay. So yeah, no, I'm kind of worried for them now, and going down to 10 men is not going to do anyone any favor. The minute they went down to 10 men, that game was over. The St. Pat's just strolled through the game then. They didn't even have to get out of third gear, they just strolled through the game. The goals, good goals, but you talk about Pat's performance.
Yeah, I was extremely happy with it, I have to say. Look, like you said, you can say they were playing a poor Derry team down to 10 men, but you still had to play what's in front of you. I probably actually wasn't as confident as you. I was a little bit nervy. I was hoping that they would have got a goal before half-time. I thought it was half-time, Pats 1-0 up, Derry down to 10 men. I really thought Pats would have had enough to close up shop and to hold on to it. But so I didn't know what to expect in the second half. I thought Declan Devine would have made probably a couple of more. He just more so just sat back. I know that's probably what he could have done, but I thought he maybe would have brought on a couple of substitutions, maybe to help Parkhouse up top and work off break. But that just didn't happen at all. And it really was just pure domination by St. Pat's. Not only the pressure they put on, but it's nice to see that the build-up can be a little bit slow to watch at times, but if you look what they're doing, it's breaking down Derry, like Derry City, they were just shifting them from side to side and waiting on them gaps to open up. And they eventually did come. It took a while to come. It was a few minutes into the second half until Pats got their first goal. But yeah, as soon as it went 1-0 up, that was it. I thought they were there for the take. And it could have been 3 or 4. By the way it was going on, there's plenty of gaps opening up. The likes of Matty Smith again, his work rate is absolutely fantastic. I thought he was brilliant against Bohemians. The stuff he does off the ball is probably more dangerous than the stuff he does on the ball. And on the ball, he's a great player. But yeah, it was a very, very impressive Pat's performance. Probably not the most exciting. There was still a couple of moments I'd like to see players just pull the trigger. There's a couple of chances outside the box I'd like to see have a pop and see. But yeah, I can't be anything but impressed with the start they've had this season. It's always hard to get a so-called easy run of games, but yeah, the fixture list wasn't kind to them really at the start. So to see they haven't lost a game, 4 games in, still unbeaten, and 2 Dublin derbies, away Dublin derbies at that as well in that schedule. So yeah, it's been really impressive to see. I think the work rate, the fitness, and the shape that the Pats team tend to hold. It's been really, really impressive, and it's been probably the best of them, that aspect of St. Pat's that I've seen in a good while. So it's early days, but the real feel-good factor around the club that hasn't been there since the Liam Buckley days.
Yeah. If you want to contribute, just send in your comments. You can also come on to the show live. No one has done that yet. I'm not surprised. It's a little dodgy for you, but if you want to send in your comments about any topics, can be happening from the All-Ireland League to your team's match tonight, or maybe fixtures tomorrow. Nathan, we were very, I suppose, critical of St. Pat's last year and how they played and management.
Yeah.
We were kind of asking questions about them, how they would set up this year. Maybe not too looking at the players that were brought in. You weren't too sure. You're looking at some players going, yeah, he can do a job, but you kind of thought that the year before. So how do you assess now the start of this? And are you a lot more optimistic now?
Yeah, definitely. I had them pinned down for, I think, 5th place. I wouldn't be putting the champagne in the fridge just yet. I still think that it's hard, I think it's after probably 10, 15 games when you really can start getting excited. But yeah, I'm much more optimistic than what he has been. In fairness, even listening back to old podcasts and stuff, I never outright said that I thought Stephen O'Donnell wasn't the man for the job. I just questioned the division. Last season, it was actually a similar position that Dundalk find themselves in. There's a lot of chopping and changing in the teams, in the back room and things like that. So it was hard to get that consistency on field. So that seems to be gone now. Again, only 4 games in, but there isn't that much chopping and changing whatsoever. There seems to already be a settled starting 11, which is great. The sooner you understand what your best starting 11 is, the better. He already seems to, at the start of the season, Ronan Coughlin was sort of working as a main central striker. He seems to have a bit more freedom now to move out to the right and left-hand side, which the player like that really needs to be able to do. So yeah, I was very worried, I have to say, at the start of the off-season when there was a lot of players going out and there wasn't too many players coming in. And even the ones that came in, again, to touch on Coughlin, I wouldn't have been his massive fan. the jury is still out, you know, like you got to do a good start. But we've seen it before, you know, like a couple of seasons ago, Mikey Drennan came in and hit the ground running, and we thought, finally, a goal scorer, you know, this is the goal scorer I've been waiting on. And then he went almost half the season without scoring a goal. So it's still, feet firmly planted on the ground, but it's brilliant to see. It really is. And especially when you see sides like Dundalk and Bows and things like that dropping points, you know, while it's only yearly, like them things do catch up in you, you know yourself later in the season. So while Pats are on this great run, I think just keep going. And again, look, playing Dundalk, I have no fears about that Dundalk team at all next week. But I think Pats are extremely organised. I didn't see much at all in the midfield at Dundalk. I think Pats could break them down, not handy, but fairly easily. And there's definitely one day for the take, and I definitely do think the good start could continue.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go on to the first division results now in a second, but just there's been a lot of talk about this All-Ireland League again this week. There's been talk up the north about, you know, looks like there's a lot more interest from the Northern Irish side of things, but not necessarily clubs, but the association. What's your thoughts? Do you think that there's something going to be in this? Do you think that it's just people's interest, but it may not materialize? I've heard loads of different stories about, you know, the money situation, you know, the European money that they have up there, that it's, you know, the European money is huge for, as you know, for any League of Ireland team. So if you're not getting that money in because you're finishing in 6th or 7th in an All-Ireland League, then you don't really want to be part of that, do you? So, I mean, money's the big thing here, isn't it?
Yeah, like everything in football, especially at this level, money is the big thing. For the longest time, us lot down here in the Republic have been all for it, and seemingly up north it's just been an absolute no-go. So it seems to be slowly starting to melt a little bit. They seem to be sort of slowly coming around to the idea of it. Like I said it before, I'd personally like to see it. I know there's a lot of, even away from the money, a lot of the complaints was things like travel and things, the distance of travel, but that goes on every week, even in the League of Ireland itself. So I think things like that wouldn't be a non-factor. But yeah, look, the issue of money is always a difficult one to overturn, isn't it, in any aspects of football. Yeah, I'd like to see it happen. I don't know what it would Brexit and come in and play an effect or anything like that. I couldn't see it happening in the next year or two, but going forward, and I know one that he put together like a proposed format, didn't he? Before, I think you actually talked about it before.
A very complex,
complex. I think I had the unenviable task to explain that or something on one of these shows.
Yeah, I'm not sure we still know what. I'm not sure we still know what it is about. I think, wasn't it something along the lines of it's the way that actually it's not too dissimilar to the way they're talking about the Champions League being played now, where you will play different people within your league. So someone from the north would play against someone from the south, but you would have your Northern League, you would have your League of Ireland, but also these points would correspond in an All-Ireland League. And then, so it was very complex, and probably not really the way you want an All-Ireland League. You want it pure and simple All-Ireland. So a Premier Division, a First Division, and a Second Division, if that's the way it's going to be, or a Premier and a First Division, whatever way it's going to be, to have all the teams mixed in together. So fair is fair. But the only way it's going to ever happen, I think, is if the TV money comes in from a Sky or a Premier or BT or something like that. It's not going to come from RTE anyhow. We know that.
No.
So one of them are going to have to come in. And if you look at the money that the clubs are getting, say in the north, from any of the European adventures, if you finish 7th, 8th, and 9th, you nearly have to be making money that you would get, you know, somewhat. So in those European adventures, it nearly have to be covered, you know, because I can't see clubs coming into a league, and I think they're more nervous because I feel that they think that they're not on par with the League of Ireland at the moment. I think you're seeing that with the Satanta Cups recently.
Yeah, and even that game, what was the name of it? Something gone in my head now. We Dundalk played Linfield in what was the bleeding? I forget the name of the cup. Anyway, but yeah, and Dundalk absolutely battered Linfield. So I think that actually you're right. That seems to be a real concern, that the difference in standards is a massive step. The League of Ireland is a bigger step up for them that they're probably just not capable of getting to.
Yeah, and it's not always been that way. It has of course the northern teams had a better run of it than us, probably a decade or two before that. But it's just the way it is. I mean, if it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world. But
No.
The League of Ireland has to find a way of funding itself better. It has to find a way of selling itself better, marketing itself better, and there's a lot of football fans out there, and we're not reaching them at all. So it'll be interesting to see. Nathan, we go on to the first division. Some really interesting results here. Cork City 0, Athlone 1. You're kind of buzzing about this one because you've been talking about Athlone, you've been talking them up. Cork City had a great win, I suppose, against Cove in the first game of the season, but haven't been able to back that up.
Yeah, it's like I said, Cork picked up a win in the opening game in the Cork derby, and just hasn't been really clicking ever since then. Yeah, I'm not delighted. I'm not like a closeted Athlone fan, or anything, but apparently so. Yeah, and James Doonan scored as well. One of the former boys. So look, it's good to see. Like I like Athlone. I think it's a decent little stadium now they have going there. They improve brilliantly, and you have to commend any club, that makes the right decisions in the off season and brings in not only the big name players, but players that like positions that need to be filled. Like I talked a lot of time about how poor Athlone were to watch last year defensively, and that's a gap that he really plugged this season, bringing in the likes of Cantwell and Barry and putting Schlinnerman in goal. Players like this, that's already going to improve your defence, and you're seeing it already. But I think this was their first clean sheet, so we won't be getting too ahead of ourselves on the defensive side of things. But it's brilliant for them as well, and they got a cracking win last week as well. They battered Galway, which and anybody expected to see that coming. But for Cork, look, this is going to be a difficult season. We said it a few times that there was just because there was no massive expectation on it to come back up. There's going to be a lot of sides vying for the playoffs this year. We said it those times. Just the first division is going to be an absolute nightmare to get out of this season. Having the likes of Athlone, the likes of Bray now, like Bray are already 3 games in, they're just underperforming. UCD will be there. Cork City as well. So there's going to be a lot of sides vying for these playoff positions, and Cork City already dropping points against the likes of Athlone. It's going to do them no favours at all.
No, none at all. Shelbourne got a win 1-0 tonight against Wexford. You expected them to win. Yeah. They did win. We don't know how the game went. We didn't see the game, but the only thing that's important is 3 points, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think at the moment, I forget what I was watching a Shelbourne. There's so much football on lately. I was watching a Shelbourne game. I think it was last week. Yeah, I think it was last weekend, and they looked all right. I think it's still sort of waiting on them to get going. There's a lot of firepower for Shelbourne going forward. And even today, it was a 1-0 win, but it was an own goal. So you're still waiting on the likes of Yo-Yo Maddie, Michael O'Connor, and players like that to get off the mark. Glenn McCall, I think he was suspended. To really get going. So I think once he allowed to start chipping out goals, especially Yo-Yo Maddie, we've seen what he could do in the first division last year. I think they'd be tough in the stuff, but look, 3 points off the mark, the 3 games in, still haven't lost yet. So, and especially with Galway and stuff, dropping points already. Like we said, Bray still haven't picked up a win yet. So, while it might not be the dominant win that a lot of people expected, there's still 3 points on the board for them, and they can just move on. We'll be playing next, actually, while we're here talking about them. From my load now. Yeah, so they're playing Cork City next as well, and Cork City and Cabinteely in the next 2 games. So, again, look, on paper, probably 2 winnable games for Shelbourne, and they'd be happy enough with how the start has gone. Probably not performance-wise, but results-wise, definitely.
I think they look at every game and they think they should be winning them. So it's a matter of getting the heads down. Treaty United seem to think that you only need 10 players to win games or get points out. Again, another man sent off for Treaty, but they got the 1-1 draw nonetheless against Cove. It's a great start for them. That's 5 points, isn't it, from the first 3 games? So they will be, suppose, delighted with how it's gone so far.
Yeah, 5 points and 3 sendings off. I hope the fines aren't too hefty, because we know the money issues that Limerick have had in the past. Jesus Christ, we don't want to see Treaty United going out of business because they have to pay a lot of fines. But now, look, in fairness to them, fair play. It's. I think we're going to spend most of this season just saying how good it is to have League of Ireland football back in Limerick, which is true. But that's also a competitive side that they were putting together in Limerick, and we're starting to see that now a little bit. Like Charlie Fleming, he probably won't be favourite player for Treaty United this week after getting sent off. But the likes of Fleming coming in, Mark Ludden, Custrain, these sort of players. Now, it's great to see them coming back into the League of Ireland and representing Treaty. But yeah, look, it's probably be disappointed going 1-0 up and didn't hold on against a Cove Rambler side that are somewhat struggling at the start of the season. I said he probably would have been delighted with especially with a home win back on Marketsfield. But yeah, this is probably Treaty United. Some people thought he could do okay. I thought he might have struggled, but he got off to a decent start, and they'll just be happy enough. Like I said, to have football back in Limerick, but they'll be hoping to be competitive too. And again, just having a quick little nose to see what they're playing next. While we're talking. We're playing Galway, Cove, Shells, UCD, at Athlone. Never mind. Look, and you never know.
They might need the 11.
In fairness, you never know though. Like I actually made a very silly prediction saying that when they played Bray Wanderers, I had them as Bray as me banker of the weekend. I was saying there was no way that I thought Treaty United would have got any points, especially in the Carlisle ground too. So in fairness to them, who knows? And it's been a bit of an up and down start for the likes of Galway and Cork City. So you never know. You really don't. It's going to be a tight one this season, and these sort of mad results will pop up.
Yeah, no, they've definitely got a competitive side this year, and they'll cause problems, and they might make a mess of someone's chances this year as well.
Yeah.
UCD and Bray 0-0. As we said, Bray just not. I mean, they had a 3-3 draw against Shelbourne. You turn around, and you say, well, it's brilliant that they score 3 goals, but they're conceding 3 goals. Of course, they drew with Treaty. Now they're drawing with UCD. It's the draws that kill you. You know, they need to get the wins under the belt.
Yeah, and like again, harking back to the whole, it's going to be close for the playoffs, but it is going to be close for the playoffs, and it's turning these draws into wins that are going to really get you away from that like 4th to 5th position. It's going to make that a little bit more comfortable. In fairness, I think I said even you before we came on, I would have never had this down as a 0-0 draw. Like I said, you mentioned the Bray goals there. I think UCD scored 6 goals out of 3 games already this season. So 0-0 was something I was definitely was not expecting to see. Yeah, look, I think Bray be more probably a little bit disappointed with this one. They just want to get that first win off their back now. You know, we've seen the likes of Brandon Kavanagh having a cracking performance last time out. So the firepower and the squad is there for both these sides. In fairness, UCD do, like, despite Yo-Yo Maddie and stuff leaving in the off-season, they do have some decent players there, likes of Dignam, Kerrigan and Whelan. But I think Bray would be the ones that would be definitely more disappointed. Again, didn't see the game. If you watched it, let us know how it played out. But just by the outside looking in, Bray will be desperate to get that first win just off the back and just to start moving up now a little bit. You know, it's going to be tight, and you don't want to start dropping. Not saying stupid points, but I think they're playing something like Athlone in the next round of fixtures. That's another difficult game, so they want to start turning some of these draws into wins very quickly.
Yeah. If you want to, you can leave a comment, even if it's just the recorded version that you're seeing over the weekend. You can still leave a comment down there on what you thought of the games tonight. If you think Dundalk are in a little bit of trouble, or they're going to scrape out of it, or you think that they actually will push on and put in a challenge. St. Pat's, have they got a chance this year to actually challenge? Because now we're looking at different teams, Nathan. You're looking at St. Pat's. You're looking at of course, a big game with Sligo and Shamrock Rovers. That'll be a huge game, but it'll be a huge game just because it'll be interesting to see if Sligo Rovers can actually put it to Shamrock Rovers.
Yeah, definitely. I thought Sligo were really poor against Longford. I thought they were very lucky to get a win out of that game. But and they've done well though. In fairness, even against Waterford, I thought for the opening half an hour Sligo were average enough. I thought they underwhelmed, but they have some decent players there. You know, like people talk about Bolger, but the young lad Johnny Kenny, Romeo Parks, Jordan Gibson. These are players that got off to a really good start of the season, either performance-wise or scoring goals or assists. So it's going to be a massive game for them. There was already a lot of hype around them, and even outside of Sligo, you know, like you can just look at fan forums, and a lot of people are very impressed with how they're getting on. So if they can, even if they can get a draw or something out of Shamrock Rovers, I think it'd be a big statement for them, because Rovers do look really good. In fairness, like we even mentioned earlier, they sort of have that firepower which maybe Dundalk and even probably Bows don't have this season. Danny Mancher's got off to a decent start. McCann, the midfield, by the way, I think has been absolutely one of the best players probably this season so far. I think it's been absolutely brilliant. Graham Burke as well. We all know what he can do. So yeah, if Sligo can get a draw even out of that game, I think they'd be really, really impressed. And it would be a good statement, even though it doesn't matter how early on in the season it is. If you can pull something from the champions, you'd be absolutely delighted. Like, even opening game of the season for ourselves, to even go up to the talent and get a draw, as disappointing as it was at the time, looking back, like, it really set us on course for the good start we're on now at the moment.
Who's the player that has stood out for you at the moment? In the whole league, we've had 3 or 4 games now. Who stood out for you so far at the moment?
Again, it's going. I suppose, isn't it going off what sort of games you watch? I watch a little bit of Finn Harps. It's a few Finn Harps players, but I think Carlos Sullivan has done really well. Adam Foley has been absolutely brilliant. Some of his clinical finishing has been absolutely fantastic. I don't really like talking about Pat's players too much. I think it can come off as a little bit biased, and we just don't want to do that here, But in fairness, there has been some decent players. Ronan Coughlin has been on the score sheet. I think Chris Forrester has been a revelation compared to last season. He already looks 10 times fitter. He's reading off the game. It's been absolutely brilliant this season. He's probably taken up a bit more of a different role than anything else. Yeah, we all know him for going forward, but he's sort of just now sitting back and controlling things because he's getting that little bit older too, and he's getting that bit more mature in his play. And it's great to see, because these sort of players are few and far between. I mean, you can have players like Chris Forrester around young lads in the squad, like Darragh Bones came on and scored, Ben McCormick on the bench, young lad Alfie Lewis came on. So we can have someone like Forrester around these players. It's great to have. But yeah, probably Adam Foley be the main one for me. I thought he's been absolutely brilliant. A couple of his goals have been one-on-one chances, which, while you're looking at them, you expect strikers to score them. But when you get into your own head and you have even half a second to think about what you're going to do, you can talk yourself out of being calm and composed. But anytime I've seen him go clear on one-on-one with the keeper, he's finishing has been absolutely sublime, and it's been clinical at its absolute finest. So yeah, I think I'll go with Adam Foley. What's your show? What do you think?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this now, just as you've been talking. McCann has been brilliant in the centre midfield for Rovers. I really like him. He dictates the pace. His weight of pass is really good. I actually think that even though he got taken off in the first game, he was the best player. Darragh Markey for Drogheda.
Yeah.
And I think he's a player that's going to get them results because he seems to be able to open up something, and they need that type of player. And I couldn't believe they took him off in the first game when he was playing so well. Maybe there was reasons for it, I don't know, but it's definitely in the last game against, who did they play? Finn Harps. I thought he was very, very good again, knocking the ball around really well. But it just seemed to be every time he got the ball, there was a little tread ball through. He was breaking lines, and it just seemed to be him all the time. So he has done really, really well for me. I think I'm going to go, because I've said it since the start of the games. Your man Gibson has done really well, and he's impressed me so far. Now, that's just in these few games. He has to keep that up. I mean, the level of consistency has to be there, but definitely for Sligo, he's done really, really well. He's impressed, So he's probably the one who has impressed me most so far. I don't know whether that is because I didn't expect it, or it's because he's playing at a level that is a really, really high standard. And I think it's a little bit of both, but I think he has done really, really well. So
actually, another one as well, I've talked about a few times here. I think man Maskell off Waterford has been really, really good.
Yeah. I think Niamh was talking about him as well. Yeah,
I think he has, and it'll probably be a Waterford side that might struggle a bit this season. But if you have a guy like that that's so creative and from a dead ball, he's absolutely lethal. Some of the crosses that you can deliver in. And they have big players like Prince and King Kavanagh up top. I think it could be a bit of a danger for them. And I think these sort of things can, yourself, they can pull you out of these relegation battles, or when you're struggling and you might get even a free kick of a corner, like these sort of balls in, they can save it. They can get you points that are almost as vital as goals, having these sort of players in their team. So yeah, I think Maskell will, so far so good, has done really well this season. He's on loan, I think, isn't he? He's on loan from Bolton or something, is it? So it's
no, I just meant to ask you. Your lad from West Ham came on this evening. Didn't get much of a chance to show what he's about, but what have you heard about him, and what's the story with him?
Yeah, he's not my lad. I didn't make him. Just anyway.
All your lads, if the same paths to your lads.
Yeah, my collective boys. Yeah, in fairness, when he came over, straight away went on the way. It found that somebody West Ham fan for them in the deep, dark corners of the internet. And a lot of them, in fairness, have rated him. A lot of them think he's a very creative player, that he's not the biggest, they say, he's probably not the biggest lad, but he can hold himself up pretty well, and they don't think there'll be much of a difference in stepping up from academy football to men's football, which is a massive step up. It really is, when you're coming from academies and you're playing against men that do this for their jobs. But it might not seem like, you might just think football is football, but physically, like, it's a night and day, yourself. It really, really is. But the only thing, like, he's been down there. We think he's in the under 23s now for West Ham, and he's been down there for quite a while. He's 21 now. Like, that's the age. I think the age is gone where if he was going to step up and really do anything at West Ham, he probably would have done it by now. He's been really, really limited at the Hammers. So while that chance is probably gone for him to really break into the West Ham team, if he can make a good spell at St. Pat's, you never know. We could get a move off to probably to League One, or even stay in the League of Orange. Like, it's too weird to say. Like I said, he didn't have an awful lot to do here, really. I don't think he's staying that long. I think him and the other lad, Melvin Lambert, that we have in from Reading now, and he's staying until June. So that doesn't really give them an awful lot of time to push themselves into the team and to impress on a consistent basis. So I think it's going to be really difficult for both the lads that have come over on loan to really do that. But yeah,
it's really hard though, Nathan, isn't it? Like, if you've only got a short-term contract and it's up to June, why would the manager put you in a place in the starting 11 if he knows that you're going to leave? I mean, it doesn't make sense for him to try and get a solid team together and know that one of those players, unless he's an absolutely outstanding player, head above the rest, you're obviously in. But if you're someone there who probably can learn this trade and build on it, he hasn't got enough time there to do anything, has he?
No, it doesn't make sense either way. Like you said, it doesn't make sense for the manager to put him in and to have him in his plans, and then he's going to be pissing off in a couple of months, and then you're sort of left with a hole in your team. Yeah, I think especially your man up top, Melvin Lambert, he's going to have to come in and score a couple of goals in quick succession to really force himself into the team. I think Alfie Lewis, he's not going to get into that starting 11 with the St. Pat's midfield there at the moment. Like, you're not going to take out Benson, Jamie Lennon. Lennon's actually another guy who's been absolutely brilliant at the start of the season. Or Chris Forrester, to put in Lewis. He's going to have to really be a world beater, and it's just not going to happen realistically in that short space of time. Even DA Sports Cup isn't around this season, so he's not even relying on cup games to spark. Yeah. So I think, I think it's just more so get him over, get him some sort of accustomed to even training at a men's level full time, and get him used to playing. I think that's what the two of the lads on loan at Pats this season are going to get. They're going to get 10 minutes here and there. They're going to get 5 minutes here and there, and that's really it. I think to expect anything really from them would be a bit. Probably a little bit.
It just seems like a wasted move, doesn't it? Like, you think that, like, if you're going to want a player to learn, give him a full season with a club you feel he's going to get game time, and then he's going to learn a hell of a lot more than he is going to sitting on a bench or playing for the under 23s. So it just doesn't make sense to me at all. And there's a few players come in from England this year, so it's been interesting, especially with Waterford and stuff like that. So it's interesting to see, is this a trend that's going to keep going, or is this just something because there's a couple of links there with managers and that'll be the end of that? We have a few good players coming through ourselves, so we probably don't want them blocking our players' lads' route through to these teams, do we?
No, going back, like, it doesn't make sense at all. Like, they don't think it might benefit a player a little bit in the short term, but someone like Alfie Lewis again is 21. Like, he's not really going to learn an awful lot sitting on the bench in Richmond Park on a weekly basis. So I don't think he will. Anyway, he's not going to develop too much. I think the striker might get a little bit of something out of it, but even at that, he has to be coming on and scoring goals and getting that confidence in his game. But again, you're not going to get that if you're not playing. So while, again, even going back to St. Pat's, the goalkeeper Yarvas there at the moment, he's on loan as well, but he's there for a year, and he's the number one keeper this season. He's going to be playing week in, week out. Yeah, so that's understandable, and they're moves that I'd never be against. And, like, fair enough, look, it's sort of weird when you catch feelings for a loan player, then you just leave it, and it's a bit disappointing as fans, but you can see why them moves make sense. He's going to be there week in, week out, with the likes of Lewis and Melvin Lambert aren't going to be. So yeah, I'm in the same boat. I don't think these short-term moves ever really make sense, especially when they're not going to be playing week in, week out. If he was to go up even, I'm not saying it's a better league or anything, but if he was to drop down even to, like, the Vanarama League, or, like, down in England or something, would he have got more regular game time down there? who knows? And it would have saved them moving over to Ireland for a very short amount of time to realistically not play.
Yeah. Well, that's their call, but I mean, again, it's for a League of Ireland manager, he has to make his mind up. Is it worth bringing them across if they're not better than what he already has? So, right, we'll leave that there. We will see you during the week. We will have loads of stuff up in the bigkickoff.com. There's plenty of stuff up there, podcasts as well. And we will be back here, as ever, every Friday night for the League of Ireland Sports Bar. Nathan, thanks very much.